Hello BookTube, I'm coming to you today with the character adaptation tag 2, The Wrath of the Tag. This tag was created by Steve Donoghue, inspired by the original character adaptation tag created by Seeking Stories. So Steve Donoghue did the original tag and he thought it could have been a little bit longer. I mean, the original tag just can zip by. I think there's like 4 prompts, and my own personal video was like 4 minutes, maybe not quite 5. So he thought maybe we could all do a little bit longer video. And I will admit right now, I actually don't really watch a whole lot of movies. Because I was thinking about this tag and struggled mightily. And I tried to film a video a few minutes ago, and I realized prompt number 2, yeah, I don't actually agree with that. That was just me reaching for straws. So, yeah, I'll talk about that when I get to prompt 2 a little bit. So let's begin. So prompt number 1. Give your top runner-up movie series adaptation of books. I will go with the Joan Hickson-led Miss Marple series for my top runner-up. In the late 80s, early 90s, the Miss Marple novels were adapted starring Joan Hickson, and they are all phenomenal television movies, just phenomenal. I watched the entire series 2 or 3 times on Netflix when the series was on Netflix a few years ago. It's currently not. I think it's only on BritBox now. And for film, my runner-up would be The Devil Rides Out. In Britain, I think it's still called The Devil Rides Out, and in America, it's called The Devil's Bride for some unknown reason. It's an adaptation of Dennis Wheatley's novel The Devil Rides Out, and it definitely improves upon the novel. There's a later bit of the novel after Fleur is kidnapped by Makata, the main villain of the movie, and there's this chase across Europe to get her back. The movie does away with that. The movie basically just goes to the mansion that Makata and his associates are renting and ends the movie there. And it is just brilliantly done. And The Devil Rides Out, the film adaptation, is, I think, much better than the book version. So, prompt number 2, which gave me quite a few fits a few minutes ago. A very good character adaptation in an otherwise poor movie. I went with James Earl Jones's Thulsa Doom in Conan the Barbarian. But then I realized I don't actually... Well, I guess to a certain extent... I mean, Conan the Barbarian starring Arnold Schwarzenegger is a good movie. I mean, it's a really good movie. I mean, it's not necessarily a good adaptation of Conan, but is that necessarily because it's a bad adaptation, or is it I want to see Robert E. Howard's actual stories be adapted? And in that case, it's not necessarily I mean, for me, a bad adaptation, because it's not adapting the actual stories, it's creating original stories. So, yeah. So then I kind of like, well, okay, let's knock off that and try to come up with another one, and I struggled mightily. I'm like, I just couldn't figure one out. Now, it probably will come to me eventually once I get around to actually watching more movies, which is something I need to do. Okay, moving on to prompt number 3. Which books are your holy grail for a film adaptation? Now this, when I first made off the list of this one, I had some trouble because I kind of think I misunderstood what Steve was getting at here, and then it kind of dawned on me that these are the books or book media that I want to see adapted. That these are what I really, really want to see adapted. So I had on here Conan. I would love to see a new Conan adaptation that really adapts the actual short stories by Robert E. Howard. I would love to see the tarot sequence by Katie Edwards adapted. I think there's some. It's been optioned for I think a television series, so I'd love to see that one done. I would love to see an adaptation of Perdido Street Station by China Miéville. That would be awesome. A Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. Radiance by Catherine M. Valenti. And I would love to see live action adaptations of some of the big manga, the shonen manga series like One Piece or Naruto. And I've actually read that One Piece is being adapted by Netflix, and I've heard rumors of Naruto being adapted in live action too, but I haven't heard much from that in a while. Okay. Prompt number 4. What would be your dream casting matchups of actor and literary role? Now this one was a pain because again, I really don't watch as much television, film, movie, TV shows as I thought I did. So this one was a bit of a struggle. One person I had on here was Cameron Monaghan, who was in Shameless. He's Ian Gallagher in the American version. He also played the Velasca brothers in Gotham. I think he would be phenomenal as Fade Harkonnen in Dune. Try to come up with other actors I would like to see in roles, but I couldn't do it. I blanked out, and I'm kind of annoyed with myself about that. But if I do want to do like a video where I maybe do this if I ever remember to. Okay. Prompt number 5. Is there a book series you think is unfilmable? To be honest, with the technology as it is now, I think unfilmable technically is no longer an issue. Like technically every film is possible to. Every book is possible to be adapted given our technology. So even the most fantastical of fantasies or science fiction, I think we have the technology to at least visually adapt it. But necessarily acting or timescales, maybe not. And so what jumped to mind immediately is Naruto or Fairy Tail. These long-running manga series that have a lot of arcs, and while took 10, 20 years to tell the stories, not a whole lot of time passes. I think with Naruto, the first part, I don't exactly remember like part 1 in terms of release schedule. Was probably like maybe a few months in story time, but was several years in production time. And in the second part, which again takes place over the course of several months to maybe a year, took about 10, 15 years-ish, somewhere around in there. So that would be where it would be like trying to adapt the sort of, yeah, the story kind of like that would be a difficult one, particularly as a movie, where it takes several years between films to get off the ground and stuff. I also put on here King Solomon's Mines. Excuse me. Generally, none of the King Solomon's Mines movies are all that successful. They all really butcher Haggard's novel in one way or another. And I think also given the realities of today's culture and stuff, it would probably be incredibly difficult to film King Solomon's Mines. Okay, what was number 6? Oh, what was the first movie adaptation of a book you remember seeing? I'm going to go with Conan the Barbarian. When I was like 5 or 6. When I was younger, as a kid, I was really into sword and sorcery movies. And I remember Conan the Barbarian being like one of the first ones I watched. Okay, number 7, and this one is going to be a tough one too. Are you a tough sell when it comes to a film adaptation of a book you've read? Put it to the test. What were the last 5 such adaptations you saw, and how many of them did you like? This is going to be tough, and I had to stretch because, again, I don't really watch movies as much as I would like. Basically, I read, I write, and I watch BookTube. So, The Magicians, because I've read The Magicians by Lev Grossman, and I've seen parts of the first season of The Magicians. The Expanse, I've read the first book, Leviathan Wakes, by James S.A. Corey, and I watched the first season. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Tennessee Williams. And Shadowhunters, which is based on the Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. I read bits of the first book of that, and watched bits of the first season of Shadowhunters. And okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I need a 5th. I guess we'll go with Sweet Bird of Youth by Tennessee Williams too. And in case anybody's interested, TCM will be airing Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and Sweet Bird of Youth in February. Yeah. Sometime in February. So, of these, I honestly did not care for the Magicians adaptation, the television series of the Magicians. I thought it was just annoying. Expanse, I actually quite liked, although I haven't really continued with either the books or the television series past season 1 for the series and book 2 for the book series. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, I actually really like. Sweet Bird of Youth, again, I really, really like. And Shadowhunters, I kind of sort of bailed in the first season, so, and haven't really gone back to it. So, I will say 3 out of 2, or 3 out of 5 that I actually liked. But again, that was quite tough. So, yeah. So that was the character adaptation tag 2, Wrath of the Tag, from Steve Donoghue. And I will have my writing update here in a few minutes. So, thank you, BookTube.